Councils of traditional rulers for Ebonyi and Cross River States endorse the second-term bid of President Buhari.
Allow hate speech on your station and be penalized or risk your license, NBC warns.
Hydrocarbon fuel future, Africa charged over infrastructure development.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on financial inclusion, capturing the unbanked.
Now, for many developing nations, Nigeria inclusive, the main mode of payment for businesses and services still revolve around cash, and lots of cash, Kingsley.
Very much so, Jumai, and despite our huge population as well as Nigeria's large economic base, a greater percentage of Nigerians are still unbanked. Now, several reasons have been adduced for this development.
Quite true, Kingsley. Over the years, bringing financial service to the underserved has remained one onerous task for many governments and representing financial institutions. However, the benefits are enormous, no doubt, if well projected.
You're right, Jumai. Now, another march towards achieving that purpose came on last week when the Central Bank of Nigeria unveiled a revised national financial inclusion strategy seeking better practices.
And Kingsley, statistics through relevant studies have shown that concerns for financial inclusion are valid if meaningful progress will come through with government policies.
Indeed, financial inclusion cannot be overemphasized. Access will bring a turnaround in status and economic stability, poverty reduction, as many means, of course, to entrepreneurs who will, of course, get validated and sustained along the way in terms of their projects.
However, needless to say that these upsides to economic viability will continue to elude the nation if we're still having the frustrating figures of the underserved in the system. So,
one question to ask is, what are the constraints in getting the huge number of unbanked Nigerians financially included? Another is whether we can ramp up infrastructure, particularly with regard to energy and technology.
Now, Kingsley, what should be done to checkmating the key barriers to the desired financial inclusion for the unbanked in Nigeria? Our guests will join us to x-ray these as well as other areas of concern to us, all as we look into financial inclusion capturing the unbanked.
That's right, Jumai. Of course, we're going to have our guests who will be talking about this aspect in our conversation segment, precisely on what is required to be done to ensure that the new CBN strategy is realized. It's on that note I would like to welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you as always on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Jumai Yusuf. I also join Kingsley to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria. In the course of the program, we shall bring to you our companion segments as well as newspaper review, business, sports, foreign and entertainment. First, let's take the news highlights with Chimobi Walter Inaji. Good morning, Chimobi.
Good morning, Jumai and Kingsley. Here is the news. The prospects of President Muhammadu Buhari getting re-elected towards consolidating his Change Nigeria enterprise are becoming brighter as presidential campaign team of the APC crisscross the country to seek understanding and support. And this came to light when the highly revered councils of traditional rulers for Ebonyi and Cross River States formally endorsed the second-term bid of the Nigerian leader.
We are reinforced the relationship with our son, the governor, and their love for him and the state will surely earn you and only you votes in Ebonyi State, irrespective of party differences.
We have fared very well as the people of Southeast in terms of distribution of projects, infrastructure. And this is a fact that nobody can controvert.
I am very pleased you have appreciated the efforts the government has made in terms of infrastructure. and especially in terms of agriculture. And I'm very pleased that Ebonyi State deserved and felt the impact, of federal government's help towards farmers, both small and large-scale ones.
Meanwhile, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has assured Nigerians of more infrastructural development as well as improved economy if the Buhari administration is given another opportunity to rule. He said this during his campaign visit to traditional rulers in Ondo State.
Heavy in infrastructure, and even in the southwest, the Lagos-Ibadan expressway or all the way to Benin, these are roads that we have put substantial amounts of money aside to do.
My people believe that you are a good ambassador of the Yoruba race.
President Muhammadu Buhari has assured members of the All Progressives Congress, APC, that he is fully behind the party and its candidates in every state of the Federation and campaigning for them wherever he goes. Presidential spokesman Garba Shehu says President Buhari is for the APC in every state, and there is no doubt about that despite his immense cross-party support. He noted President Buhari's open endorsement of Hope Uzodinma, the APC gubernatorial candidate in Imo State, whose hand the president raised high before the crowd at the campaign rally. And the people of Mbo local government area have been promised that Ibaka Deep Seaport project will retain its name and developed for freight activities to solve the challenges of importation in the country. Governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Obong Nsima, gave the assurance at a campaign rally in Mbo local government area.
Supporting us, thank you for believing in us. Thank you for believing in the change agenda of President Muhammadu Buhari. We need you to become business owners, to become employers of labor, so that you become employers and take other people on. That's what you need. We once again present to you the man that you already know.
Election is carry go for President Buhari. Election is carry go for Obong Nsima Ekere.
And away from politics now, the Court of Appeal has turned down an application to stay the Code of Conduct trial of Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen. The court, in a ruling, said the Administration of Criminal Act has long stopped the stay of criminal trials as a matter of rights. The Acting Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, says the force is determined to ensure optimal professionalism to guarantee the delivery of a peaceful, secure and credible general elections in line with global practices. The Acting Inspector General stated this at a meeting with the squadron commanders of the Mobile Force Police Unit in charge of operations at the force headquarters.
In line with this mandate and in relation to the election security plans, the mobile police force will be deployed to provide robust protection for local and international election observers, INEC officials, and sensitive electoral materials, as well as critical national infrastructures.
The Inspector General of Police also advised all political actors and the electorate to place national security above personal interests and always stay within the ambit of the law. Moving on now, conducting a hitch-free and credible election requires a peaceful environment devoid of threats to lives and property. The capacity of strategic election stakeholders has been built in this direction in Abuja, courtesy of the British Broadcasting Corporation Media Action.
It's the key word or the watchword. NT has always remained neutral, and we try to give balanced coverage to all the political actors.
What the 2010 Electoral Act had provided, we're going to provide security for the electorates, INEC officials, as well as the citizens.
For policing and proper safeguarding of the election is a precondition for a credible election.
We cannot conduct elections without the security agencies securing the environment for the elections.
Still on build-up to the elections, allow hate speech on your station and be penalized or risk your license. Now, these are the words of the Director General, National Broadcasting Commission, Ishak Modibukau, as he addressed newsmen in Abuja.
Expressions and language used in the excerpts captured can be seen to be abusive and not decent for broadcast. 525 says, political broadcast shall be in decent language. And 533 says, a live coverage shall be truthful, decent, fair, and balanced.
And in other stories, the African hydrocarbon industry have been charged to be more committed to infrastructure development to be at par with the global hydrocarbon industry, where experts say technology is evolving. Our high-speed energy correspondent reports that the second Nigeria International Petroleum Summit critically examined challenges and projections for hydrocarbon fuel future.
Ourselves in Africa, the more we will give opportunity and advantage for people to infiltrate the system and tell us what we are not good at.
Most of what we see is participation by upstream players. We will need to encourage even downstream players to participate in the NIPS.
It was an attempt by Nigeria to take its pride of place in Africa, biggest producer, 30, 40 years, 50 years of history of oil transactions. We needed to bring more to the continent, and that's why we started it.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Jume after this break. Do stay with us.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem promptly through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Sunana Abubakar Haruna, ina tuki daga nan ina zuwa Kaduna, Niger, Ilori, Oyo, Lagos, Kogi, Abuja. Sakamakon mun samu canjin gwamnati, muna zuwa gurin muka tafi ba ma samun gosulan da muke yin kwana 2 zuwa 3. Zuma zuwa kwana 1. Sakamakon gyaran hanya da muka samu a yanzu muna zuwa a kwana 1. Na gode Allah da cewar hanyoyin da muke bi, akwai gurin da an canza complete hanya, an canza mana gaba daya, akwai gurin kuma da gyara, an gyara mana hanya ko ba haka ba, kuma muna godiya ga wannan gwamnati.
Team huddle.
But we lost.
Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Me, I am ready for the party. Oh yeah, my one job is smart. I go really early. Oh, I know where your story. If you see my Keleo, it go on everybody. Let me guide you to yellow. Let me guide you to yellow. Let me guide you to yellow. Let me guide you to
3G is great. 4G is better. You don't know what you're missing till you experience it. Upgrade to a 4G device and SIM, SMS Get to 141 to enjoy double data on Nigeria's widest 4G network. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Helen!
Hey, where's your mom?
Today is her toilet day.
What?
Helen! Toilet day? Tomorrow you're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation. Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with all this, it still won't be party ready. Impossible! Challenge? New Ticker Harpic 10X. Even if you use this solution 10 times, it won't give you the same cleaning like Harpic because its new Ticker formulation sticks to the bowl better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet. Wow! New Harpic 10X gives me the freedom from toilet day.
Manager people, make we make the right choice, yo. Make we vote for a man of integrity. Hey! So, make we gather together and make this change. Work my people of Nigeria. Together we go carry Nigeria to the next level. Nigeria don't decide. Vote Baba Buhari. Baba Buhari, the man of integrity. Hey, vote Baba Buhari. Man, we no corrupt, we no go chop our money. Hey, agriculture, the next level. Fight corruption, the next level. Good roads, the next level. Electricity. The next level, with the next level, empower the next level, money. For good health we go. My people, for the next level. ABC, next level. Naija people, make we all come out to vote Baba Buhari.
This message is from Buhari Next Level Group.
Welcome back, and it's time for us to take some business stories with the Central Bank of Nigeria issuing a new directive for electronic payment of salaries, pensions, and taxes, plus a call for Nigeria to accede to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Let's take the details now with Joy Uzo.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has issued a directive for the commencement of the end-to-end electronic payment of salaries, pensions, suppliers, and taxes in the country. The directive is contained in a circular for payment by quality effective from the taxes initiative towards the closer. Joy.
Thank you, Joy. Newspaper review is up next.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atobe, is with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Jumai.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. Well, first of all, before we begin with the headlines on the front pages of the papers we have this morning, we have to apologize for the abrupt end to our business package. We had some challenges with the video and audio of that report. Now, the Daily Sun is our first newspaper, and there's an earpiece there, as well as a lead story, all focusing on corruption. The earpiece says, Appeal Court okays Onogen's trial at CCT, with two riders fracas in court as NBA attempts to disrupt sitting. And law must take its course, that's according to ACF. And lead story says, with a kicker, grass-cutting contract and Ikoyi cash haul. SGF, Babache, and Oke face fraud charges. EFCC to arraign accused on 10 count and 4 count charges. That's for the Daily Sun. Right at the foot of the front page, Ambode must present budget or face impeachment. That's according to the Lagos House of Assembly. Details on page 39.
And Kingsley, I have the Daily Trust. Below the nameplate, we have CCT set to resume case as Onoge fails to stop trial. And EFCC files charges against Babachir Lawal Okeda is on page 3. And our headline says, I will accept outcome of credible polls, Atiku, with a rider which says, will consider amnesty for repentant looters. Obasanjo, former VP, will not be hijacked by cabals. And we have the picture message there, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, PDP presidential candidate, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and Chief Olabode George during a business lecture at the Lagos Island Club in Lagos yesterday. At the bottom plate, INEC releases final list of Gabo candidates today. That's on page 5. I will continue to reposition police, judiciary, Buhari. That's on page 18. FG targets $2 billion from oil, gas lease license renewal. That's on page 17. Kisley.
Bayo, let's take any of the two.
Yes, let's start from the courts. Particularly, the Abuja division of the Court of Appeal has dismissed the appeal by the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, challenging his trial alongside the motion to temporarily remove him from office. In a unanimous decision, the 3-panel of judges ordered accelerated hearing at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. Vanguard reports that the appeal court noted that Justice Onogen had in a ruling banned the grant of stay of proceeding in criminal matters. They also recall that the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria had identified the Code of Conduct Tribunal as a tribunal that has quasi-criminal jurisdiction, and therefore citing the case involving the Dr. Bukola Saraki as an instance. The court held that Section 306 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015 forbade the grant of stay of proceeding in criminal matters. The Code of Conduct Tribunal was asked to abide by the provisions of the criminal law. 4-count charge have been preferred against the former Director General of the Nigerian Intelligence Agency, while a 10-count charge was preferred against the former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babachir Lawal. In the suit filed by the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, it was alleged that the former Secretary to the Government of the Federation had conspired with the director and staff of Roller Vision Limited to fraudulently acquire property. In another, they were alleged to have abetted the award of removal of invasive plant species for $6.4 million through presidential initiative for the Northeast, otherwise known as PAN. That is what is properly known among the newspapers as the grass cutter contract. They are expected to be arraigned next week. The ex-Secretary to the Government of the Federation was removed from office last October following a report of investigation headed by the Vice President. Meanwhile, the former Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Mr. Yodele Oke, and his wife, Folashade Oke, are also to face a trial in Lagos. Mr. Oke and wife are to appear before a federal high court judge in Lagos on Friday.
All right. Thank you. Babachir, that's over the grass cutter incident.
Yes.
His removal was in 2017.
October.
You said last October.
2017.
Last October will be October 2018.
Forgetting that we are already in the new year.
Okay, and today is the last day of January, by the way. Okay, let's return to the papers. Punch is at page 10. That's politics today. Elections, that's the kicker. NBC to sanction 4 stations over hate speech. And INEC releases final list of governorship candidates and others today. Impostors and renegades behind Buhari's endorsement, that's a claim by Afenifere. And APC knocks Ladoja and allow Akala for attacking Ajimobi. Those are the stories?
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, about the 4 stations, yes, the National Broadcasting Commission has sanctioned 4 major television stations. I won't name any of them. However, this was as a result of allowing hate speech on their media. The Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, Isaac Mudiwukau, at a press conference said the stations broadcast hate speech by politicians from both the All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party. He reiterated that broadcasters have a huge responsibility to guide democracy and should not promote violence or anything that can lead to it. He says letters conveying the violation and the sanctions appropriately following it will soon be delivered to the station. He also used the occasion to indicate that in the next 15 months, the digital transition that has been ongoing will have come to an end. On the political campaign trail, the All Progressive presidential candidate, President Muhammadu Buhari, has said that he is not corrupt and he has never been convicted of corruption. While on campaign at Abakaliki, he said, recall the 5 positions he held previously and his ouster as well as investigation, and he was never found wanting. He expressed concern that I can assure you that as the president today, I have never been in the position of abusing trust. He said, fighting corruption is very difficult. People appointed into public offices within 3 years, they build houses in Abuja and open accounts in Europe and America. But when we discover, we will take them to court. We have the will and we will prosecute them and we will punish them. On the PDP presidential campaign trail, the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar says if he is elected, he will consider amnesty for losers. He said adopting amnesty like Turkey did, and all the money that was taken abroad from Turkey were brought back, and that made Turkey to become a country like Europe. He says such a method is better than alleged corrupt people joining a ruling party and be shielded from prosecution. He said he cited an example during the term of President Obasanjo that over 4 billion was recovered in that manner. And he says if we had gone to court, we probably will still be prosecuting and the money will be denied in the country. So those are the perspectives on war against corruption.
Okay, Bayo, our editorial is from the Punch newspaper. Attacks on football referees inimical. Top-flight football referees in Nigeria are contending with a critical crisis. 2 major incidents that concern them have threatened the 2018-19 Nigerian Professional Football League season, which got underway in January. On the opening weekend, ill-tempered fans went haywire in Jos, Plateau State, and attacked match officials. And in France, the Football Professional League has come down hard after last week's league game, one game with Marseille and Lille. A fan threw a firework from the stands which exploded on the pitch. Interestingly, while the game is at a crossroad here, it is fetching billions of dollars for European countries because it is managed professionally. Back home on the domestic game, to inch near that, the LMC should synthesize it thoroughly and run it professionally. It should not brook violence in any form from fans or clubs. The LMC should mandate clubs to install closed-circuit TV cameras and other technologies to capture troublesome fans. Clubs should improve on the quality of their stadia and put better policing in place. As the editorial.
I think I agree with the editorial, and this editorial is predicated on the recent happening on the league. The current league started only on January 13th, and already there are 2 incidences of violence in that stadium. The first one took place in Jos when Plateau United was playing Ifeanyi. The second one was during the match between Remo United and Remo Stars and Bendel Insurance at Shagamu. The referees in that team were bloodied. If you see the pictures that went viral from there, it's a gory sight. The stadium should be a place where people go to relax and watch football, and not a place for violence. And incidentally, the under-20 national team has to leave for Niger just today or tomorrow. They are to participate in the African Cup of Nations for under-20. And the secretary to the Nigerian Football Federation was saying that they should do the nation proud by winning, because when there is football, the nation settles down. It unites the nation. And particularly now, because of politics, our nation is in the 10th position. And football has the ability to bring some kind of succor to the people. Now, why should people go to stadium to watch football to relax, and then they go and witness violence? And therefore, the measures they have adopted, they are challenging the local league management team to make sure that measures are put so that those who perpetrate violence are identified and prosecuted. In Europe, they specifically identify such persons and even pick them from the stand even before the violence begins. So I think it's a good stand, and the editorial's position should be taken note by the Nigeria Football Federation to see how we can stem violence at our stadium.
They talked about closed-circuit cameras in the stadium.
Those are the facilities that will help identify who are the culprits. Yes.
All right, Bayo, that's, unfortunately we don't have enough time to discuss the political crisis that is brewing in Lagos between the State House of Assembly and the outgoing Governor Akinwumi Ambode, and the alibi for the threat of impeachment. Of course, there will be, I'm sure, other allegations in the articles, assuming the draft one, is that he hasn't presented the 2019 budget. And yesterday, there were protesters for in support of the governor, who stormed the State House of Assembly and said, listen, why do you want to impeach him? He lost a ticket, you know, to run for a second term. He's been doing his job well, but what's going on? I think that's a huge political crisis that is brewing, and that's Nigeria's commercial capital.
Well, from the response of the representative of the Lagos State House of Assembly, they said because they are representative of the people, they will listen to the voice of the people. But he, however, asserted that there was need for the governor to present the budget. The budget for 2019, according to them, still has not been presented by the House. I don't know what the law in Lagos State say, if they have a deadline for presenting the budget. At the federal level, October is the deadline for presenting the budget. Unfortunately, most of the time, that has been presented behind that schedule because of the critical challenges that we have.
I think, well, I mean, I'm sure the facts will begin to unfold once the crisis comes to a head. Because sometime last week or the week before, there was a report of the governor, you know, seeking to make a formal presentation of the appropriation bill to the legislature. You know, reporters and all of that were all camped out outside the assembly. But the word that came was that they should stand down because the House members were meeting and were not ready to receive the governor. I don't know. So usually when these matters are played out like this, you begin to find one excuse or the other. And then things, as we said, probably could come to a head if there's no resolution found immediately.
And I think they need to find a balance for the interest of the citizens who voted them into office.
Certainly.
Yes,
that's right. And out of Uganda, you know, there's been a bad story. There was a disc jockey who was murdered in northern Uganda on allegation that he was playing boring music at a disco. Unfortunately, you know, young man, you know, he was trampled upon by the disco goers. He was playing boring music, and the young man lost his life.
Violence.
Yeah, that's right. And James Ingram, of course, those who listen to rhythm and blues, passed away a couple of days ago, at 66. Bayo Tebi, thank you very much for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll get ahead with our discussion segment.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NT.
Team huddle. But we lost. Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I was so excited to sing in the choir.
And your shirts are always so white.
I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secrets passed down to me. It's Jik, of course. The original trusted bleach, which can be used all around your house for amazing results.
Shh, it's our little secret.
It's no secret. It's Jik's best ever extra whitening power. Just Jik it.
Here you go.
Madam.
That's it. Those nails are enough.
Hi, dear. Helen! You got so much even after spending so little.
Savings is such a necessity.
You save everywhere, but here, you lose it all.
How?
With this?
Impossible.
New Tika Apic 10X. Even after applying up to 1 liter of your solution multiple times, you won't get the same cleaning that Apic gives you in a single round.
And the expense?
Far less compared to your 1 liter of solution. New Tika Apic. Toughen cleaning.
Toughen savings.
Thanks for staying with Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live from Abuja. To set the pace for our discussion this morning, let's take this background report put together by our correspondent, Abdul Malik Adil.
To accelerate growth in the financial sector in Nigeria as a key driver in becoming one of the world's largest economies, the federal government introduced the National Financial Inclusion Strategy in 2012. 7 years down the line, it is with a renewed vigor that the Central Bank of Nigeria strategizes to ensure greater participation of more Nigerians in the nation's financial sector and to reduce unbanked population by 20% by the year 2020. Experts say the financial inclusion measure became evident following the agreement reached by the Apex Bank, deposit money banks, licensed mobile money operators, and super agents to fund the financial inclusion initiative in the country. The move, which has been in the works for about 5 years, with the overall aim of deepening financial inclusion in the country, will entail a massive rollout of agent networks that would offer a wide range of basic financial services such as cash in, cash out, fund transfer, bill payment, airtime purchase, government disbursement, as well as remote enrollment of bank verification numbers to an estimated 50 million Nigerians that are currently underbanked or unbanked. For experts, reaching the unbanked Nigerians, especially those who reside in rural communities and some in the urban areas, a secure, affordable, and accessible system of payment should be looked into in order to take advantage of the growing lucrative market. On Good Morning Nigeria, we shall be taking a critical look on promoting financial inclusion in Nigeria and its cascading effect on the nation's economy.
Well, joining us on the studio now is a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, Dr. Emeka Okengu, a development economist. Dr. Okengu, pleasure to have you again on the program.
Pleased to be here, sir. Thank you. Okay. Happy New Year.
All right. And also joining us from our Benin Network studios, regular face on Good Morning Nigeria, a professor of economics and non-executive director and member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Professor Mike Obadan. Professor Obadan, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you.
and good morning, Nigeria.
And joining us from our Lagos studio is Dr. Uche Olowo, the President, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. Welcome to Good Morning, Nigeria. We have in this Lagos studio a financial expert and also a former banker, Mr. Shaibu Idris. Thanks for joining us.
All right, so the gentleman you just saw. All right, let's just take them off. The gentleman to the left of your screen, that's Shaibu Idris, and to the right of your screen, that's Dr. Uche Olowo. One has a tie, the other doesn't have a tie, but they are both from the banking sector, by the way. Okay, gentlemen, let's begin this conversation from Benin. That's where we have Professor Mike Obadan, who is a professor of economics and a non-executive director and a member of the CBN MPC. Professor Mike Obadan, why financial inclusion?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Financial inclusion is important because it is of great significance to economic growth and development of the country. And it's seen as a very potent tool for achieving economic growth and development, particularly when there is need to reduce massive poverty, there is need to generate employment, there is need to create wealth, and there is need, generally to improve the welfare of the citizens. And so it's felt that if the citizens, the people of Nigeria, have good access to financial services, it's a kind of empowerment that will enable growth to be stimulated and promoted. But then perhaps I'll just say, what is financial inclusion? Financial inclusion simply refers to a state whereby financial services are provided by financial services providers to reach, many people, who could use the financial services. In other words, the financial services would include, for example, payment services, savings services, deposits of money, and even services in the provided through the capital market or through pension fund administrators. They are all financial services which the people are expected to benefit from. But the issue is that over time, it's been found that many Nigerians, very sizable proportion of Nigerians, do not have access to such financial services at affordable cost, and they don't even have access to a broad range, of financial services, providers. I don't know whether I should go into statistics at this point in time, but perhaps to say that the Apex Banking Regulatory Authority, the Central Bank of Nigeria, found need and appreciated the need to, make as many people, to have access to financial services as a means for empowerment, as a means for poverty reduction, employment generation, and as a means for direct improvement of welfare. And as at 2008, it was found that as high as 53% of the adult population, were financially excluded. In other words, they did not have access to financial services. And that bothered the Central Bank of Nigeria, and hence it introduced the financial inclusion strategy in 2012, which was revised in 2018.
All right, Professor Michael Badan, thank you very much. We'll return to you subsequently in the program so you can tell us about the numbers that you were trying to get into. Now, let's come to our studios here in Abuja. Dr. Emeka Okenko, of course, you listened to Professor Michael Badan indicate what and why we should have financial services. But it's an aspect of it that, in addition to whatever response you may have, is financial inclusion necessarily an aid to economic growth and development?
Yes, it is. But let me also start. This time I have a conversation with you. I say, let's look at it from the back end. It's very important to look at it from the fundamentals. Let's take a very elementary fundamental: good, better, best. Okay, they say good is okay, better is good, but I still want to be the best.
Not
so that's
not good or goodest.
Not good or goodest. So let us be looking at goodest. Okay, which will be what you call best practice. In developing your financial inclusion, you're talking about the unbanked people. You're talking about human beings. Okay? You're talking about probably getting 50% of your population or more into some system that makes them accountable or makes them accounted for. Is that what we're talking about here? Yes. Now, you'll be requiring a lot of back-end work for this to happen. You'll be requiring a lot of data. You're not just going to go to the streets and start plucking statistics out of the trees. Otherwise, because remember that the central bank has said we're going to be getting in 500,000 people, that are deploying 500,000 people, okay, what you call the services, experts. You're going to be deploying a lot of technologies. This brings the role of the ICT, okay, on-site. Now, what relationship does this program have with our existing population data? What role is MPC playing in this? What role is MBS playing in this? Okay? What role are the local governments playing in this? Right? What role are the state governments playing in this? Now, if you don't have this and it's a central bank project where you have 500,000 people, into the streets, into the local areas, into the bushes or whatever. Now, what documentations, what you call in economics, what data generation forms have been developed? If we don't interrogate these things, we might not start having issues with actually making this conclusive. But to answer your question directly, yes, financial inclusion not only will help growth, but will also even help national security, because it will now help you to get people, or what you call the underserved, or what you call, again, the underground economy, which is even more important to you, because a lot of these people who are not banked does not mean that they're not any money. Now, what it means is that a large chunk of what it is that comes out of your economic system is actually being held down and is not accounted for, okay? It also means that most of the, monies or projects or programs being done by government, and remember that 80% or more of our social projects are thrown at these people who are unbanked, okay? Which is not very, very good. I think it's very dangerous. One, for national security. Two, for even monitoring, your financial systems, right? Three, for monitoring growth. So it simply means that all the statistics, and each time I have this conversation, I keep asking you, where are we getting our data from? Is it from primary or secondary sources? This program has clearly shown that we have not been able to create that capacity for us to draw our data from very primary sources. And I'd rather be that little bit that says, let's look at good as not good enough, and probably look at better heading towards best.
Okay, some pertinent issues has been raised. I'm still with you, Mr. Okay, they said we should go to Lagos, and and I'll be joining our Lagos studio now, where Dr. Uche Oluwa is the President, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, will be speaking to us. The CBN made a global commitment in Mexico against 2020 for financial inclusiveness. Are we racing against time here?
Thank you very much. Yes, we are racing against time, and we believe that that is achievable. The target is to get at least 80% back into the banking net, at least by 2020. To this end, the bank came with initiative, which you have seen a lot of campaigns running through our national papers called SANEF, the Shared Agency Network Expansion Facility, designed to make sure that that strategy is actualized. You have, well, talking about what the doctor was talking about, statistics, the most important thing that we know that in our rural areas, there are no financial systems going on there. The reason clearly is that the cost of serving those people before now is humongous. So you don't, now today is no longer brick and mortar. So technology will be deployed to drive financial inclusion. It has the capacity to do that. And that's what the Share Agency Network Expansion Facility, which is an initiative of the central bank, the mobile operators, the deposit money banks, coming together, and General Institute of Bankers, coming together to ensuring that this strategy is assured. We're deploying various machines to the unbanked, to making sure that they get the necessary services in terms of savings, transfers, payment mechanism. What has hindered, I know that there has been this argument, is it telco-led or bank-led? But the middle road approach has been there. The banks are ready and geared towards making sure that this is achieved. And then we also have the payment service banks that have just, some of them have been licensed. All is designed to making sure that by 2020, if we're not achieving that 80%, which is the desired goal, we should be doing at least 70%. I believe it's achievable because the necessary barriers that have been inhibiting this financial inclusion, especially in KYC, the BVN, all that have been addressed together, so that we expect that 2019 you are going to see a lot of people bringing down to the net. I think it's a very good initiative. We support it, and I believe that it's achievable.
All right, Dr. Olo, thank you very much. My question is going to Shuaibu Idris, and of course, Olo, we may also wish to chip in there along with the other guests. Financial inclusion, I mean, some persons might argue that, well, this looks like a psychedelic phrase to describe what, in fact, had been going on in the past, but seemed to have been interrupted on account of new banking practices. I'm saying this against the background of what we all know, that there were some banks that were often described as being too big to fail in this economy. And one of the sources of their sustenance had to do with the fact that they had a wide variety of small-time depositors in different parts of the country. Now, some persons would argue that those were, if you like, the baby steps towards financial inclusion. And then all of a sudden, as banks started chasing public sector funds and, the big funds you would get from the oil and gas industry, there seemed to have been a less emphasis on those number of small-time depositors with the bank. So is that what we are looking at here again? To say, listen, ramp up the number of small-time depositors and then, of course, also ramp up the services available to them. Can we do that on the basis of current practices by banks?
Thank you very much, Kingsley, for that question. But I think you got it a bit wrong. Yes, you could say there is an axiom which posits that there are certain institutions that could be said to be too big to fail. But I think the discussions we are having here on financial inclusion, and with particular reference to the global best practices as it were, I think it's a bit different from the historical perspective of the Nigerian banks, where quite a number of the old generation banks, have had customers that were spread all over the country, some of them predating even Nigeria, because some of these banks have existed prior to, say, 1960, when Nigeria got its independence. What is happening currently, and indeed not just in Nigeria but all over, is countries of the world are realizing that there is need to get more and more people within the context of the financial system. When you get people within the financial system, you are able to generate savings. And when you generate savings, then there could be investment. When there is investment, there could be development in the economy. And indeed, there will be significant reduction in poverty. This has been alluded by Professor Obaden from the Benin studio. And yes, maybe there has been a paradigm shift or a kind of a change in the attitude of the banks because of the financial, implication or the cost, as my colleague here, the president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers said, the cost implication of chasing small-time depositors in the last, say, 25 years was a bit prohibitive and so high. So the banks were looking at, should I continue to chase these small-time depositors when I'm not even able to recover my cost, talk less of break-even? So why don't I marshal my energy and my efforts towards getting deposits, say, from the high-net-worth individuals or from the government or other, multinational companies operating in Nigeria? However, with technology, we're now having, the opportunity, just like, again, Doctor has said, the shared agency network will somehow reduce significantly the cost of, getting people to be, included in the financial system. And that way, the banks will have no reason whatsoever not to use the shared agency network to be able to reach out to the unbanked population. And I think somehow, I'm not too sure if we will be able to achieve the target by 2020. We are already in 2019, and we have just, if you like, less than 24 months to the end of 2020. And how much knowledge is the common man on, say, the street of even Ikorodu, as close to Ikorodu is to Lagos, understand about this issue of the shared agency network? When you go to even Damaturu, the capital of, say, Yobe State, or other smaller settlements around that area, how many of them read newspapers? So yes, as far as the policy is concerned, it's laudable, and on paper it looks good, but I think the implementation we are lacking in terms of the push and the drive necessary to achieve the target by the year 2020. My statistics is showing we're just about 30% financial inclusion. So the level of the penetration is a bit slow, and we are worried. And unfortunately, 60%, 55% of the Nigerian populations are the ones that are most affected with lack of financial inclusion. And what am I talking here? The states in the northern part, the 19 states, are the ones that are worst affected with financial inclusion. When you look at financial inclusion on a state-by-state basis, you realize that Lagos and the southwestern state, Enugu and the southeastern state, Port Harcourt and the southern state, they have a fairly higher financial inclusion rate than other parts of the country. And yet, the level of publicity that is required so that the country can work on the same frequency is somewhat suspect.
Well, Shuaibu, thank you very much. I would like Dr. Uche to also respond to this. Maybe I should just recontextualize my question. When I used the analogy of the label of what we used to hear then of banks being too big to fail, it was because I said that, look, those banks, of course, were chasing deposits, as Shuaibu also indicated, and these were small-time savers spread around different parts of the country. Now, that some persons would argue, fine, we used to have that experience, but we lost that experience, as it were, following the chase after public sector funds, high net worth individuals, together, of course, with the oil companies and other multinational corporations. Where are we now, to be able to ensure that, fine, we can, as it were, piggyback on the experience of those old generation banks that used to have, depositors scattered in different parts, scattered around different parts of the country? Thank
you very much. Let me just say something. Clearly for us, TSA has put a lot of pressure. So the issue of public sector funding is, challenges there is there for the banks. And then also you have the issue of technology in banking that has, given the bank the impetus, because today there's a lot of disruption in banking. It's no longer brick and mortar, like I said. You have there are mobile phone users all over, even in the Northeast and all that. Now, all you need to do, and that is why we are very optimistic that this target, if not achieved, but a significant progress will be made. Because today's banking is in your hands, and that is the mobile phone. And so technology has given us that enablement to do that. And also because of the systemic risk that banks have faced either in the oil and gas sector and some other sectors, it's very attractive for them to mobilize this deposit from those rural depositors, because when you aggregate them, the banks are actually aggregators. So the market dynamics and shift support the bank to go towards that direction of mobilizing deposit from the rural area, alongside doing what they know best to do, supporting the economy in terms of the large. So all you've seen that you have now segmented the market properly. The retail, the future of banking is in retail banking. And so banks have, reprioritized the strategy. As I speak, I know the kind of investment that is being done by the banks in order to make sure that this SANEF is achieved, financial inclusion, because it is for our own interest. We all know that financial inclusion enables economic and social development, and the banks will do that. When you're going back to history, it's because the cost was so enormous. Even when you were talking about those two big banks, what was the statistics? These big banks did not just the rural banks or people's banks, so various initiatives that were introduced never supported, improved this. But technology, that's why the beauty is that this is technologically driven, and therefore it is possible to doing it. The government is doing so massive social investment, and this is the areas, because the banks deployed about 500,000 phones, mobile phones, and are even ordering more to those rural areas. The agent network, it's going to, catalyze these activities in the rural area. So I still believe that it is important, and given the dynamics that are facing banks today, that the banks will support this initiative.
And still with you, adequate financial stability is very important. Literacy and education and adequate protection is critical to sustaining the long-term sustainability and viability of the financial sector. It is also key to the success of the policy, as you just mentioned. So how are these achieved? And most Nigerians are in the rural areas. What are the modalities in place in the policy that will address and reach out to these people in the rural areas to encourage them to do banking? Because most of them feel they can't put money in the bank, they don't trust the bank. So what is the policy addressing towards that?
Thank you. What is being done, because financial literacy is very critical. The banks under the subcommittee of the Bankers Committee on Financial Literacy, they've done quite a lot of jobs in terms of reaching out to various areas, educating the people, making them know the importance of having bank accounts. We are also broadcasting the benefits of this policy in the various local languages where they can relate to it, and are using some influencers in their various local communities to drive home the importance of embracing this important policy that will uplift them from poverty, because they now have access to financial services, that is not driven by brick and mortar, but with their own convenience on the telephone. Clearly, that literacy is very important. We're advertising in the radios, the television, the electronic and the print media, and then also using the local means of mass mobilization. The banks are sponsoring that as a program. In fact, the banks have a structure. The SANEF is even managed by a complete structure that this is part of their program to making sure that the people are educated in the various local languages. In the 3 major languages, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and even to other local tribes that are, that are in Nigeria. So I believe that we will get it right, because once there is a will, the banks are, poised to making sure that this program succeed. Because if it does succeed, like my Dr. Idris said, that it means that we mobilize more savings, which can be properly channeled for investment. And once the economy grows, the banks are better off for it because they have more value to create out of those investments.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Uche Olowu. We'll return to you gentlemen in Lagos, but let's go quickly back to Professor Mike Obadan in Benin Network studios. Professor Obadan, just before you started reading out the numbers, we had to pause you. But I'll take up from where you stopped, but along with that, these are the issues that I would like you to also consider. What is the financial ecosystem into which the new financial inclusion strategy is being introduced? I'm asking this question against the background of our population figures. 198 million, we are told. And if you look at the literacy or illiteracy rate, you also find that we're dealing with tens of millions of Nigerians, plus the jobless figures. So how are all of this being considered in the strategy to get more persons financially included?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. The statistics are quite clear. As at 2008, about 53% of the adult population did not have access to financial services, and in other words, they were financially excluded. But there was an improvement. By 2010. The financial exclusion rate dropped to 46%. And by 2016, the financial exclusion rate, further dropped to about 41%. So, as it were, the statistics, of exclusion are still not comfortable. And so, there are strategies to ensure that, more and more people are financially included. And in other words, fewer people become financially excluded, such that by 2020, the target of 80%, would be, reached. No doubt there are challenges, in the financial inclusion, scheme. The implementation of the strategies, the implementation is constrained, as it were, by numerous challenges. You talked about illiteracy. That's a major factor. Even when, the financial services are brought closer, to the people in various areas, the ability or capacity to engage with the various programs is also very much in doubt, because the literacy rate, is on the high side, and the practices of the, deposit money banks are such that they tend to scare, the people, particularly the illiterate ones in the rural areas. And even if we are talking about, mobile financial services or cashless financial services, to what extent will people, market women, don't have much education, artisans, traders and similar groups be able or be encouraged to use financial services. So invariably, the strategy to reach out to them must be one that brings financial services much closer to them. I know, Kingsley, you spoke before very correctly that those days, the deposit money banks, had a policy of, having many branches, in the rural areas, and, that was supposed to bring financial services closer to the people. We also had community banks, you had People's Bank, and many others. But over time, some of those schemes, collapsed. And like you rightly said, the deposit money banks began to look more towards government deposits. And, not much emphasis was on making access, easier for people in the rural areas. So the strategy that I think is good, which the National Financial Institution, Financial Inclusion Strategy is considering, is the strategy of agent banking. And so expansion of financial services to include agent banks as providers. And agent banks are simply providers, agent banking is the provision of financial services by a third party on behalf of, licensed, financial providers, deposit money banks, and others, to the people, which means the scheme is designed to bring financial services much closer to the people in such a way that, the practices, the procedures are less complicated and which the people can easily engage with, such that such agent banks provide simple services like opening accounts, receiving deposit cash, and then withdrawals and making payments, transfers, and so on. I think that once that is imbibed by many, licensed deposit money banks and others, such that we have numerous agent banks all over the country, then definitely that one would be, a good measure in the right direction. I know not long ago, Keystone Bank, launched a scheme, to expand, agent banking services to many states, and I think it started pilot scheme in a few states. I don't know how far it had gone now. But I think the financial inclusion strategy has it as a major plank, major strategy to expand, agent banking network, to the agent banking networks to rural areas, and even urban areas where there is financial, exclusion. And I will also add that there is, in the offing, a scheme or a strategy which will help in no small way the element of, financial inclusion.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Professor Mike Obada. We're now coming back to our studios here in Abuja. He raised a lot of issues, and this number of the unbanked, how has it impacted the Nigerian economy over the years?
Well, I think we should try to further disaggregate this story. Unbanked and people who don't have access to financial services. Remember, there is truly no community. You don't see one unlicensed banker or financial service provider. In some climes, they call them Osusu for the purposes so that everybody can understand what we're talking about. I think what we're doing is that we are focusing too much on the front end, like I said. if we're going to be including those people who walk from streets to shops to shades to villages, carrying these small machines, which the CBN has identified as the offsite, there are very few that have not been included, using probably an agent. So what you need to do is to first and foremost do a scoping study, if we are to get this right. Because if you don't start with a scoping study, you're going to now also be excluding those who might become your pathfinders. And who are these? These are these small agents you see every day. I'm even sure in your office here, I won't be surprised if you people have that kind of system, where on a monthly or weekly basis, you people are contributing 10,000, this person takes, the other person takes. That person who is holding that money is actually the person that this program should be targeting. Do we have such statistics? You see, this is why I'm saying that I don't think we're starting this program. We're starting it good. It's a very good program. But I'm insisting that it has to be done well. If we create a framework that first and foremost identifies what is, for us to say, oh, over 50 million Nigerians are unbanked. True, it could be so, because they don't have direct access to banking services. But it might not be very correct to say that the same 50 million people are excluded from financial services. Well, are you seeing where the difference is coming now?
No, not exactly, Dr. Okengo. What you're describing, where the label you use, the Susu scheme,
yes,
which is very common amongst our people, that is a savings scheme. Yes, savings, it could be a financial service, but you have a wide range of other services that are included in financial inclusion. I mean, if I'm supposed to have a benefit,
yes,
if I'm supposed to have a benefit, say I'm a farmer or something, and some credit is supposed to come onto my phone, that credit is not going to go to the Susu collector.
This is my point.
Yeah.
There's an Susu collector. Has this scheme identified that there's an Susu collector who is collecting on behalf of 20, 30, 40 people? Because what is collecting is going into the account of the Susu collector. Okay? And then what they do is that they not begin to distribute or redistribute this money based on who paid first.
That's right.
So there's a scheme. We're talking about financial services. Is the Osusu collector giving financial services? Yes, he is. Okay? But has he been identified? Is he one of the persons that should become a pathfinder to the success of this program? Yes, he is. That's the point I'm trying to make. So if you're able to grow a big framework that captures everybody, now the question will be, what technology is he using? What scheme is he using? What program is he using? How is he able, to sustain his business? That should be interrogated. It could help in making this a program more sustainable. But when you sweep the Osusu and everybody with the same broom to say, oh, because the Osusu person now, remember, could be part of the 50 or less than 50 million people that you're unbanking. What's my point? If you want to extend financial services, there are a lot of cooperatives. There are a lot of micro banks. You can actually bring in a new scheme to say, listen, if you're ready to start a community bank, Central Bank could want to have 9,866 micro banks. What are these 9,000 or 8,866? I don't know which is the proper figure now. These are the number of the political wards we have in Nigeria. If there's a program that says the aim of this program in the next 1 year is to be able to, in every ward, have a microfinance bank, that is tied into whatever Osusu systems, whatever existing financial systems, whatever on-site, existing ICC systems, at that back-end level, all right, then you're beginning right. What you now want to do is probably in the next 6 months, you want to achieve identifying a minimum of 1 million, 2 million, 300,000, whatever figure they are. That's very, very central. If you make it foundational, then building on your ICT becomes a lot easier because you now know where you're taking your ICT services to, where you're taking your capacity extension services to, where you're taking the need to be able to now empower people to do better too. If you don't have these statistics, you're going to be flying blind.
All right, Dr. Okengo, thanks. I'm sure some persons would also raise the challenges that the country has faced with the operation of community banks on the one hand, and microfinance banks, some of them that, of course, operate as though they were running usurious services. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation with our guests.
What? Helen! Toilet day? Tomorrow you're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation. Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with all this, it still won't be party ready. Impossible! Challenge? New Ticker Harpic 10X. Even if you use this solution 10 times, it won't give you the same cleaning like Harpic because its new Ticker formulation sticks to the bowl better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet. Wow! New Harpic 10X gives me the freedom from toilet day.
Sore throat, it's often caused by bacteria and viruses. Feels like you're having a party. You need Strepsils. It soothes the pain, plus it fights the germs with 2 germ-killing actives. Double power in 1 lozenge. Bye-bye sore throat. Take Strepsils.
NTATV College regrets to announce the postponement of 2 short courses, Camera Operation Techniques and Photojournalism Photography, earlier scheduled for 4th February to 1st March 2019 and 4th to 29th March 2019, respectively. A new date will be communicated to the public as soon as the general elections are over. All inconveniences caused by this postponement are regretted. Please, for further inquiries, please contact us on 0803 314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. TV College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Just to take some of the tweets that have come in on the subject matter, Shani Michael Amakoji, one of our regulars, says, governments at all levels have tried to bring something of such, that is, financial inclusion, to the table, both in the past and now. But corruption in our system has been a stumbling block. Recently, there was a report of how some ICT persons saddled with responsibility of registering trader money beneficiaries were caught collecting bribes from the beneficiaries.
And Dele Jack Solomon says there is need to financially empower our women in Nigeria, particularly the northern Nigerian women, through low or no interest free financial services initiative to enable them become more financially stable, to build their businesses and support their spouses to meet family needs.
And Yusuf Lawal tweets, now the sensitization is not enough with regard to financial inclusion, but I believe that where remarkable improvement, most especially with the coming of mobile financial services in rural areas, people will have access to financial services easily, and that will enable them to do more.
And Ibrahim Modu Aji tweets, the over 70% poor unbanked Nigerians, even at the urban areas, were mostly due to wide ranges of issues like illiteracy, religious belief, and lack of confidence in the banking sector. There is need for awareness to Nigerians on what is financial inclusiveness.
And Ibrahim Modu Aji says trader money and conditional cash transfer to the poorest of the poor by this administration is another form of financial inclusion, because many beneficiaries of these schemes were now banked in the remote villages. Now, these schemes need to be sustained to include more poor Nigerians. So that's the mantra we are taking. In the meantime, let's return to our guest in Lagos, Mr. Shuaibu Idris. Mr. Idris, of course, you've listened to the other guests as to what they have said on aspects of financial inclusion. But earlier, you were talking about the spatial distribution of the unbanked or underbanked in the country, and where there vast differences, plus public enlightenment. In your opinion, are these quick fixes?
Yes and no, Kingsley. Yes, it is. It can be quickly fixed if there is a will, and like the popular saying goes, where there is will, there is a way, and therefore we can do it. Like Dr. Uche said, he's quite optimistic that we can meet the target by the year 2020. However, there are 2 or 3 fundamental issues that we need to be looking at always. Number one, we are operating in one country and we have a government, and policies are not espoused in sync with one another. Financial inclusion on a standalone basis will not be able to be successful if we don't look at other governments or policies that need to, to probably be in sync with the financial inclusion. What am I talking about? Education. The illiteracy level is a bit on the high side. Why will there be a handset, telephone handset that could have Chinese alphabet or Arabic alphabet or Indian alphabet, and the country is not working with any of the technology providers to have handset that could be in 1 or 2 of the major languages in Nigeria? This could help in quickly achieving, financial inclusion, because greater proportion of Nigerians are not generally educated in quote-unquote Western education. That is number one. Number two, one of the tweets you received, alluded to the fact that the trader money would have been an avenue to expand, financial inclusion. I'm not too sure if the trader money distribution has, largely been incorporated or somewhat taken in tandem with the policy of financial inclusion. What am I saying? The gentlemen and ladies that would have received this trader money, say in Aba, Area market, or in Kantunkwari, Kano market, or Lugbe market, or in Ibadan, or what have you, how many of them were given the money through the banks? What we have been seeing is largely Bank of Industry going around distributing these monies as if there is no need to get these guys, under the umbrella of the financial system. And last but not the least, yes, technology is important, but to what extent can we say that the teledensity in Nigeria, in terms of number, yes, we have close to about 140 million telephone lines, but how many of these lines are being used in the rural areas? Most of our communities are not covered by the service operators. The villagers on telephone lines, they use them when they come into where there is network, and when they go back to their location, there is none. A friend of mine just lost his son. I've been trying to reach him, and I was just told that he's gone to his village and there is no network in the village. So that is what calls for my caution as to, is it possible to achieve the target figures of 80% financial inclusion by the year 2020. That is why I have a bit of a reservation, because when you look at, the underlying technology, the underlying issues that need to be addressed in order to achieve financial inclusion figures, we don't appear to have the capacity financially, for example, as a country, to deploy and to achieve those infrastructure that are needed so that the financial inclusion, can be achieved. I am of the opinion that much needs to be done, particularly in the areas of campaign and education, not just on the pages of newspaper. And also, the central bank may have to consider, and I'm using this in a very, very strong manner, may have to consider the era of compelling banks to establish branches in certain parts of the country so that we can achieve this financial inclusion. And in doing so, I think we should, the banks should be made to understand that certain kind of structures need not to be put in place. Honestly, I tell you, you take somebody from, say, my village, Dogwandawa, he or she comes to Kaduna and sees, I won't mention a bank name, but and see one of these high street bank offices. He comes in with sleepers and looking tattered. Will he or she even has the audacity to walk into the bank? The banks are looking too serious, too expensive, too glamorous, and too luxurious for the common man to go in and establish a relationship. And last but not the least, Professor Obada did define financial inclusion appropriately, that services at lower cost. To what extent can we say that the cost of maintaining a bank account and the documentation required to establish a bank account is reasonable enough for a common Nigerian man or woman to approach a bank for such a service?
Well, Shuaibu Idris, thank you very much for the points that you have made, but more particularly, the example you gave of, let's say, a rural potential depositor who goes into a banking hall or who tries to go to a banking hall and he finds that the environment is all glitzy and is wondering, whether he's in the right place or otherwise. And that question is going to Dr. Uche Olowo. I was talking earlier about what happened, how the banks shifted from being bankers to all, as it were, to now being bankers mostly to high net worth individuals. So is it possible for us to revert to this against the background of what Shuaibu Idris said, to say, look, get banks, to scale down perhaps, their outlook in some of the rural areas, and because, of course, at some point, whether you are doing technology for financial inclusion, you probably will still need a physical banking environment to be able to get your businesses going.
Thank you very much. I do not agree in its entirety the submission of my friend Idris here. Clearly, let's get to the philosophy behind this financial inclusion. You see, you're talking about issue of, for you to acquire financial services, you're looking at speed, convenience, and security. Cost was a major factor. Banks, there is this tendency of, looking at banks. Banks are not charity organizations. There's no wonder if, banks that were run by government all failed. So this is now privately led banks, and they're there to at least make a decent return for their shareholders. But be that as it may, yes, like I said, there are disruptions that are going on, and that is led by technology. We can no longer rely on the history of what has happened. Let us face the challenge as it is today. What can enable us to achieve these three major: cost, reducing cost, speed, and convenience? And above all, the issue of getting the essence of banking is to make sure that the financial system continue to maintain some level of stability, bringing accumulation of savings, mobilizing savings from the surplus units to the deficit unit. All that is what you should understand. So having established that philosophy, now how can we serve best? Because it's an interest that the financially excluded must be brought into the financial system. Clearly for us, technology has made that simple for us. We are talking about in the rural areas. I come from a place where almost everybody, they have telephones. Yes, I agree. And that's why we have even deployed so much the SANEF program. I don't know, maybe we have to do more in terms of awareness and education of what the SANEF program is, designed to achieve. Professor Badan talked about the agency banking. It's all included because it's a standalone, it's an SPV of the banks, the central bank, and even the mobile operators, to making sure that we reach those unbanked through technology, and they can have access to financial services in terms of payment, insurance, and even pension. They could receive their pension scheme. The issue of saying that, it's not all about mobilizing savings. It's also getting them to access, financial services. I can tell you today that banks, brick and mortar, is not. There are different strategy for different markets. For the rural areas, you don't expect them to go building the bank branches. No, we can serve you better through as technologically enabled through that with the help of the telcos. Everywhere you can reach almost every part in Nigeria. Yes, the tele density you said, I don't have the real statistics, but I think it has improved a lot. It is possible. It is doable. With the fear of not trusting banks, not having the banks are poised to making sure they change those narratives. As this policy was designed in conjunction with the Bankers Committee. So everybody it has a skin in the game. It is designed to making sure that we support government in its aspiration to making sure that, everybody, at least 80%, that target. Yes, is 80% possible. Why am I so optimistic? It's because of the critical mass that technology affords you. All we need to do is that if we can get the telcos, the infrastructure, the platform to work efficiently well, it's a lot easier. The barriers to KYC account opening, they have reduced significantly, those barriers, so that you can walk into the banks. The standards for opening a normal account, it's not the same thing as opening for those SANEF programs. So it is, things have been done in a way to making sure that that strategy is realized. I can tell you that the man who works with bedroom slippers to, a very magnificent banking hall, he will be attended to, because bankers are trained to offer service. They know the reason why they should offer service. So if he's intimidated, we don't want them to be intimidated, and that's why we're taking those services to their doorsteps. We are using influencers who speak their languages to making sure they understand what is being put forward to them. And I think from the feelers I have from member banks and the corporate, the rural population is embracing this SANEF in much manner that we never even expected. And that's why I am upbeat that we will continue to drive. And what you should understand is that when bankers are poised to doing a thing, they will achieve it. That is the truth. I keep on saying that if other sectors of the economy have driven their own contribution the way bankers have done, I don't think we'll be talking where we are. You talked about issue of microfinance bank, People's Bank, and all those various initiatives. Those initiatives did not work because, one, you couldn't get the issue of speed. The factor of speed, you couldn't. The factor of cost, you couldn't. It costs so much to deliver those services. In fact, today, technology has, reduced those factors, that inhibited, financial inclusion. So it is left for us to now, with all zeal and vigor, pursue this laudable program. Because for us as bankers, the end game for us is that we mobilize these savings. It gives us the opportunity to even do financial intervention better. So I believe that we'll do. And to my colleague in the Abuja studio, you need to understand that we're not talking about only mobilizing savings. We're talking about issue of the whole value chain of financial services. Because there's those that have retired to their rural areas and they are pensionable. They don't need to come to the urban center to receive their pension. And then there are so many other things, those other financial services, insurance and all that. It's an opportunity to making them come into and enjoy this. And that will perhaps liberate and uplift us, all our population to making sure that we live a better standard of living. So it is important that we do it, and we are going to do it. I do not have any, I can bet it that by 2020, if we don't get to hit 80%, we will be closer to that. And that it's been done in Bangladesh. The bank-led, it's been done. If it's done in other climes, why can't it be done? We have, the fintechs. Nigeria is leading one of the revolutions. So it is possible, and I believe that it's going to be done.
Thank you so much, Dr. Uche Olowo. And back in our Abuja studios, he raised some issues on what you said earlier before we went to Lagos. Do you believe in the viability of reaching the 80% target by 2020?
Well, you see, there's something that is happening today, and I think all of us must understand it. While we have one side saying, oh, Nigeria has a large coverage of ICT, and that person is saying, oh, in my village or this is not there. So we're doing a lot of postulations. I'd like to tell Dr. Olowo that the most important thing in a banking relationship is trust. And trust is being able to interface with somebody at his level. Okay? You had painted a picture of a very big house. There are places the man wouldn't even want to enter. He has 1,000 or 300 he wants to go and put in it. And somebody had told him, you're going to be spending 10,000 to open an account and probably paying XYZ. But if you had a guy who could come with a simple jeans and T-shirt, talking his language, you will find out that you begin to now build more trust. You understand him and he understands you. What language are we speaking to these people? You have 500,000 agents you're mobilizing. I've said it before. You have less than 9,000 political wards in Nigeria. Who are these agents? Where are they being mobilized from? What scoping studies have been done? You're talking about getting inclusive financial services. You cannot begin to get inclusive because there are demands. You're just not going to, because you've gotten an account open, then government begins to give you money. There are also demands for you to be able to even get into this program. And that person has spoken about the trader money, program, which would have been a perfect, what you might be able to call, platform for you to launch this. But we missed it. Why did you miss it? Because you went into the market, started counting this money in bullion vans, and you were giving it to these people in cash. Now, if you had gone into the markets maybe 2 months or 3 months or 1 week before this thing, to go to the market leadership to say, give me the names of all your members. Every market has it. You'll be shocked. Every market in Nigeria has a list of members and what they do. Now, against these members, give me the account numbers of your members. Now, this is what it is you want to do. You begin to do this. First and foremost, do we even have the statistics of traders in Nigeria? Do we have the statistics of markets in Nigeria? You're talking about being optimistic. You must be optimistic, but you must be cautious in your optimism. It must be driven by data. It must be driven by statistics. If you don't have the proper statistics, how do you plan? Now you're going to be getting, like I keep saying, 500,000 people, you're throwing them out into the streets. Where do you need these services most? And I've said to you, and I stand to be corrected on this, there is no area of Nigeria you do not see somebody who is offering some financial service. And can I give you news? It is not only about savings. It's also about loans. These people also extend, some credit facilities to those that are holding their monies, which is why when they collect your money, they give you a certain period of time before you can collect it on an interest. Do we have the statistics of these people? Do we have a compendium of where they are? Do we know who they are? Now, these are the first unbanked or unlicensed service providers. This should be our first charge. This should be where we're going to be beginning this program. So for us to begin to talk about microfinance banks, banking, no. Can we start financial shops in every community that has more than 300 people? Wherever you have a primary health care, okay, wherever you have a primary school, right? Why won't you just have one simple little office where that agent is chosen from amongst that community? In these 500,000 people we're mobilizing. So instead of mobilizing from the top, why don't you mobilize from the communities? Maybe get a small classroom teacher who you are able to train, okay, to say, you're going to be doing XYZ for us. One, get the statistics of all the traders, all the people who live within this your community. Two, get somebody who is able to probably help to now draw up a framework where we know what they earn, where we know what they save, how we now know how we can begin to now include or exclude or extend financial services to them. If you don't do this, trust me, and I'm saying this on national television, this might just be DOA.
Huh. All right. Explain that. That's dead on arrival. Dr. Emeka Okengo. Well, back to our Lagos studios from where we had a lot of optimistic statements by Dr. Uche Olowu. Shuaibu Idris, in Lagos, I would like you to, cap it, because we're going to have to sign you off in Lagos at the moment. Well, in terms of the broad categories of persons who remain unbanked, we don't have the data, but what can be done, for instance, with the younger generation who would appear to be, more attuned to IT and therefore smartphones, and also the gender question? Women would tend to be more and better organized than the men. Is it possible, therefore, in areas where banking services, or in areas where there is a greater preponderance of incidents of financial exclusion, that such groups could be targeted, and also against the background of the optimistic expressions by Dr. Olowu?
You can sleep with that question, but before then, you see, this issue of financial inclusion, we started discussing about it in 2008, 2009. By 2012, we had the policy roll out. Statistics has shown that in 2014, there was about 44% of Nigerians that were under the financial inclusion net, but by 2017, it dropped to 40%. And these statistics, I'm not conjuring it, they are from the central bank statistics. Now, if you go to other climates, Ghana, Uganda, India, by way of examples, all of them were able to achieve close to about 100% improvement within a very short period of time. We could borrow from those climate to see what exactly happened and how they were able to do. And I think, I'm also a banker. I used to be a banker. Dr. Uche says we bankers do our things differently, and if everybody were to be a banker in Nigeria, Nigeria would be a better place. I do allude to that also, and I think is the correct position to say. But back to your question on the young generation, I think as far as we are concerned, and as far as this issue of financial inclusion is concerned, the younger generation probably need not to be discussed about, because most of them have gone to minimum primary school and at worst secondary school, and because they are attuned with the society and with technology, they are already within, if you like, the banking net, because they are using data, they're using social media. So you will certainly see them, 80% of them have accounts. And the only reason why the balance of the 20% may not have account is either because they have finished school and they don't have work, or they have other challenges that you may think. But I think as far as the younger generations are concerned, call them 12 to 18 years of age. These are population that I believe they are already in the banking net. And we will progress a little further. Nigeria is likely going to, even without doing much effort, we could see the financial inclusion figures improving by the year 2025, largely because of increases in literacy level of the country.
Actually running out of time, so we have to sign you off. We thank Dr. Uche Olowu, the President, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. And Mr. Idris, thank you also for joining us. Back here in Abuja, Dr.
Yeah, just before we take it, we still have Professor Mike Obadan in Benin. Yeah. Professor Mike Obadan, there are a number of points that have been placed on the table. And of course, we know that you are a member of the Monetary Policy Committee. Are there any clarifications or amplification you would like to make to the issues? particularly with regard to targeting specific groups or using a bottom-up approach that Dr. Okengo is indicating. And again, of course, bearing in mind what happened with community and microfinance banks.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Yes, it's important to target the groups that are most financially excluded. For instance, the women group, the youths, about 53.5% of the youths, were financially excluded, by 2016. And also, you have, geographically, it's in the northern region, northern areas, say northwest and northeast, that we have the highest financial exclusion rates. And, those areas need to be targeted. But then the underlying factors which continue to constrain, high level of financial inclusion there, and other parts of the country will need to be addressed. For example, the factors of culture, religion. They tend to inhibit, measures and practices aimed at increasing financial, inclusion. Then the attitude of the financial providers themselves. You see, even when the central bank, has in place measures to encourage them to extend access to the rural areas, that old habit of, resistance, to providing financial services to rural areas or the most, underprivileged or underserved, they have that attitude that the endeavors in those areas are not profitable enough. In other words, they are looking at providing services in the rural areas, for example, with the same length as providing services in the urban areas. That in itself is a wrong approach. Then we even talk about targeting youths. Youths today have are bordered by the phenomenon of high level or high rate of unemployment. So that even if financial services are brought closer to the people, and a large proportion of the youths is unemployed, you find that they have no income. So even though that group is most adaptable to the use of modern technology in banking, they will not be able to engage, with, the formal financial services in terms of, being included in the system. In other words, while access is being extended, agent banking is being extended, and then other means are also being provided, we must take cognizance of the various factors that tend to undermine financial inclusion, like religious and cultural factors, the attitude of the financial service provider themselves in terms of considering profitability before extending access to the rural areas, then the issue of high level of unemployment. Certain macroeconomic conditions, too, are very critical. The security situation in the country is also an inhibiting factor. So these other factors must also be addressed simultaneously while specific measures are being taken to target increased financial inclusion in the various parts of the country.
Thank you so much, Professor Mike Obadan. He's a professor of economics and non-executive director and member, Monetary Policy Committee, CBN. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. And we also thank Dr. Emeka Okengo, a development economist. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us. Very interesting discourse. Thank you so much for being part of the program this morning. We now sign off on Good Morning Nigeria. Programming continues on NTA. Kingsley?
I am Kingsley Osadolo. I join Jube in thanking you for being with us. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
I'm Joma Yusuf. Bye.